Gangbusters is a 1988 top-down shooter from Konami that puts you in control of spiky-haired officers as they are sent on a suicide mission against the most well-equipped gang in history. The game begins with your two officers getting word of an emergency in town, which turns out to be a bank robbery. A handful of armed suspects dressed in red rush out, spreading out around the city. It's your job to not only apprehend these criminals, but outright murder anyone who dares to get in your way. And believe me, there isn't any shortage of people getting in your way. Almost immediately, you'll have the stereotypical gangsters emerging from the shadows to take potshots at you with shotguns, missiles, as well as grenades. But the danger doesn't stop there, as you'll have cowards hiding in sewers taking aim at you, as well as a small army of shirtless muscle men just itching for a fight. And that's just within the first 20 seconds of gameplay. As you can imagine, there is never a shortage of bad guys to mow down with your pea shooter. Luckily, you have the ability to not only upgrade your officer's speed, but also his weapon. When you catch enough criminals, your gun is upgraded to a missile launcher. However, the real fun begins after you deposit your captives in a waiting police van. For every bank robber you lock up, you get a super missile, which can clear the screen of enemies in a single blow. Be sure to use it quickly, however, because they don't carry over after you continue, and you'll be continuing a lot. To say the difficulty level is high would be an understatement. While arcade games from the 80s were designed with the primary goal of making money, this one takes it a step too far. Part of the problem is that your cop is very slow, especially when you consider the speed and frequency of the bullets headed your way. Sure, your neon-colored officer can get a speed boost by capturing a criminal, but if you don't have that in a lot of sections, you might as well call it a day. The next problem is that some of the areas are extremely narrow, preventing you from having much room to maneuver around projectiles headed your way. There is a spot on the first level where you walk through an alley that lets you take about 3 steps to the left or right and is filled with enemies, making for a complicated run. To make matters worse, just around the corner are a handful of guys taking shots at you, so you can fully expect to die here. The final issue comes with the oversized projectiles that come at you from every direction, such as the boss fight at the end of level 2. As you battle wave after wave of gangsters, harpoons will come flying out of the water, often ricocheting off the wall to take another shot at you. If that wasn't enough, giant exploding barrels will randomly appear behind you, causing a lot of quick death. There are also some enemies which appear to be there for no other reason than to cause a nearly unavoidable death in 3, such as the giant helicopter behemoth in round 3. It takes up the entirety of the screen where you can move, drops exploding barrels while firing missiles at you. And to make things worse, you can't shoot it, so you're forced to run around helplessly as the ground explodes around you. The giant helicopter really sums up a lot of the problems with this game, and that an enemy that should have been an end-level boss shows up randomly. This could have been forgiven if there had actually been end-level bosses, but through the first 3 rounds the only thing you'll face off against is a swarm of normal enemies, while dodging all manner of projectiles. While the fights are challenging and will likely kill you multiple times over, they end up being dull and repetitive. I know it sounds like I'm being overly negative on Gangbusters, but there are some good things to be found here. As you run through the crime-ridden streets, you'll find some hidden passages that will take you up to the rooftops where you can collect more criminals. And when you get to the docks, you'll have your choice of paths to take, either on the ships or by commandeering a small raft and paddling through the water. Granted, it's not much, but having some variety of going through the levels is a plus. The game is short, with only 6 levels, but thanks to a mind-numbingly stupid design decision, it will take you many hours of practice to see the end. Arcade games like to encourage players to plunk down another quarter in order to pick up where their character dropped dead, and this one is no exception. However, after a while the game decides you've played enough and it's game over, even if you still have credits remaining. I'm unsure if it's because of how far I was in the game, or if it was due to using too many credits up to that point, but to abruptly end things just boggles the mind. Gangbusters isn't a terrible game, but with the high difficulty level combined with the potential for a game over screen at any given time, will put a lot of players off. That said, it does offer 2-player gameplay, gives you a ton of stuff to shoot at, and is the only game I can think of that has a spinning dancing line of shirtless muscle-bound criminals for you to take down. If you are up for an extremely challenging game of cops and robbers and don't mind being able to finish things, it could be worth a look.